If you grew up as a man of the house, emotionally, practically, or both, this video is for you. We're going to talk about something that doesn't get named enough, the phenomena of mothers using their sons as emotional containers. What it does to boys and how it shapes the men they become. We will talk about the separation as well. I want to be clear before we begin, I'm not blaming your mother. Most mothers who do this, they themselves were probably never held properly. They were overwhelmed or abandoned in some way, and they were doing what they knew how to do. First, we need to talk about emotional parentification, what it looks like. In family systems theory, we talk about a concept called parentification. The process by which a child is pulled into a role that belongs to an adult. And there are two kinds of parentification. Instrumental parentification, when a child takes on practical adult tasks like cooking, managing finances, like translating for a parent, raising younger siblings, or emotional parentification. It's when you become the parent's emotional regulator. And for boys specifically, this emotional parentification often intensifies in the context of a mother's difficult relationship with their father. It might be divorce, separation, or just conflicts in marriage. Let's walk through a specific common scenario. For example, a woman divorces her husband or leaves a painful relationship, is hurting, feels betrayed, maybe humiliated, and she has a son. At first, it's small. She just needs to talk. He's there, she tells him what his father did, just the facts, but with her pain embedded in those facts. And the boy listens, sees her cry, something in him activates, like he feels he wants to protect her. Over time, those conversations become deeper, and she tells him more than she should. Maybe about money, maybe about what the father said, about how alone she feels. So the boy becomes her validator, her emotional safe harbor. She might say things like, "You're the man of the house now," or "You're all I have," or "I don't know what I would do without you," or "You're nothing like your father," something like that. And she doesn't mean harm. She means, "I see you, I need you, you matter for me." But the boy hears something else. He hears, "Your job is to hold me together." When the father is not present at all, through absence or abandonment, or maybe he died, something even more psychologically complex can emerge. The son doesn't just become the mother's emotional support. He starts to fill a structural hole in the family. He sits at the head of the table. In his mind, he makes decisions. He worries about money. He monitors her mood, responsible for her happiness. It's a cross-generational coalition, a bond between a parent and child that bypasses appropriate hierarchy, and it creates an enmeshed subsystem. The child is elevated, the mother feels less alone, and the cost is, in a way, this boy's childhood. This role feels good, at least at first, for the child. The son who becomes his mother's anchor occupies an elevated position in the family hierarchy. He's trusted with adult information and needed in a big way. He has power, influence, all things that children desperately want. While his peers are playing outside, he's sitting at the kitchen table being consulted on serious matters. There's something intoxicating about this. This child feels important, grown, chosen. In psychological terms, what's happening is that the child's need for significance is being met, but through the wrong channel, at the wrong developmental cost. Erik Erikson described the central task of adolescence as identity formation, becoming a separate person with your own desires, your own direction, but parentified son's identity forms around his mom, her survival. He never goes to be young. He's needed too urgently for his mother. And this is where the loss lives, often unnamed, the loss of ordinary childhood, the loss of permission to be small, uncertain, unimportant, the loss of a father figure who modeled separation, someone who showed the boy that you can love a woman without being consumed by her. Many of these men grow up and realize that they felt more like a partner to their mother than a child. When the father is absent, the son fills a void. When the father is present, Something different happens. The son is triangulated. Triangulation is a concept developed by Murray Bowen in family systems theory. It describes what happens when two people manage their relational tension by pulling in a third. The triangle reduces anxiety for the two primary parties, but it places an enormous burden on the third. In this case, the mother shares her grievance about the father with the son. The father, sensing the alliance between mother and son, may become more distant, or critical, or competitive, and the boy is now holding the emotional weight of both relationships. He learns that love and loyalty require him to be permanently in the middle. He learns that having his own perspective is dangerous, that choosing himself will hurt someone, and it travels with him into every intimate relationship he will ever have. And this pattern repeats with women. The men who grew up as emotional containers for their mothers often develop what we could call a caretaking orientation in intimate relationships. They are attuned to their partner's emotional state. They anticipate needs. They make themselves necessary. On the surface, this looks like sensitivity, and it can be, but underneath, it's often the same old structure. His job is to manage her emotional world. His own needs go quiet or expressed sideways through maybe resentment or withdrawal, or this fury of a man who has been holding things up for too long. He may also have difficulty truly choosing a partner, because on some level, his deepest attachment bond is still with her, his mom. Not consciously, not in a way he can easily name, but structurally, in the way his nervous system organizes love. Some men find themselves in relationships with women who are remarkably similar to their mothers, emotionally demanding, in need of rescue, fragile. The dynamic is familiar for them. The nervous system reads it as safe. Other men swing in the opposite direction, choosing women who ask nothing of them emotionally, and they feel relief, but also a strange absence, because intimacy without weight doesn't feel like intimacy for them. And some men simply don't partner at all. They remain available to their mothers and unavailable, in the deeper sense, to anyone else. I must say that this pattern appears across cultures and across history. We're here to recognize a pattern that has real consequences for real men, and you may see pieces of it in yourself or in the men you love. What psychological separation actually means. Separation does not mean you stop loving your mother. It does not mean you abandon her or you become cold. It does not mean you stop helping her when she needs help. Psychological separation means that you become internally a distinct self, a person whose identity, emotional state, values, life decisions are not organized around managing or protecting your mother. Separation is a process by which the infant and later the adolescent moves from merger with the primary caregiver toward a stable sense of self. The healthy outcome is what is called object constancy. You can hold your mother in mind as a separate person with her own inner life, love her, disagree with her, and remain intact. For the parentified son, this process was disrupted. Separation was never completed. The relational system needed him not to separate. 4 components are relevant here. 1 is functional independence, the capacity to manage your own practical affairs without requiring her input or approval. For many men, this is already present, but for others, mother is still somehow the invisible authority on major decisions, like where to live, what career to choose, what relationship is good. Then there is attitudinal independence, the capacity to hold your own views, including views that differ from hers, without experiencing that difference as betrayal or disloyalty. And this is harder than it sounds for men who were raised as mother's confidants, because she shared everything with him. Disagreeing feels like abandoning her. Then there is emotional independence, the ability to regulate your own nervous system without needing to know that she's okay. Conflictual independence is the capacity to feel anger, resentment, grief toward her without that leading to explosion or collapse of the relationship. Many of these sons, maybe you, carry enormous unexpected rage and guilt about that rage. Separation is a non-linear, repetitive, sometimes disorienting process. The first movement is naming. Before you can separate from something, you have to see it clearly. And this often happens in therapy, ideally with a therapist who understands attachment and family systems. But it can also happen through your own reflection, journaling, conversations with people who were not part of your family system. You're looking at for the specific ways the role was assigned to you, the phrases that hooked you in, the moments where you felt her pain as your emergency, when you felt the need to fix. Then you need to grieve it. And many men want to skip this step, but you have to mourn the childhood you didn't get, the permission to be less than heroic. The grieving means acknowledging that something was taken. The third movement is practicing differentiation. Murray Bowen used this term to describe the process of maintaining your own emotional position while staying in genuine relationship. In practice, this means learning to stay in the room, on the phone, in the conversation, without fusing with her emotional state or fleeing it. You learn to say in some form, I love you, I hear that you're in pain, and I'm not going to fix this for you. The fourth is rewriting the contract. At some point, and this does not always happen out loud, the implicit agreement between you changes. You're no longer her emotional anchor. You are her son. You can love her from there. You can be present without being responsible for her inner life, for her emotions. Then you need to build your own life. This means relationships in which your needs have equal weight, friendships that are not organized around you taking care of others, a sense of direction that comes from your own desires, not from filling her void. This is sometimes the hardest part because it requires tolerating her disappointment and hurt, that she feels you're no longer available. She will try to manipulate. It requires trusting that she can survive without you holding her together. She always could. She just chose not to. If you're a mother watching this, I'm a mother of a son myself, so we all make mistakes. If you're watching this, something in you already suspects that your relationship with your son deserves reflection. What we've described today is not the mark of a bad mother. It is the mark of a depleted, often abandoned woman who was doing her best with an emotional wound she hadn't healed. Many of you were parentified yourselves. Love, even genuine love, can create a prison if it's organized around your needs rather than his development. What healthy attachment in a mother-son relationship requires is not less love, it is more differentiation. A mother who has her own life, her own friendships, her own grief work, her own emotional support that is not housed within her child. We must let them disappoint us and celebrate them building life that doesn't center around us. He's a separate person. I will create a separate video on that, how to repair parentified relationship with an adult son or daughter, and what to do with your own loneliness. If you saw yourself somewhere in this video as a son, if you recognized everything that I described, I want to say something directly to you. What was asked of you was too much. You were a child. You did what children do when they love their mothers. You showed up. You were good at it, and it cost you something real. Separating from your mother psychologically, internally, is not a betrayal. It is the completion of something she always owed you, your own life. It is possible to love your mother fully and be your own man fully. These two things do not have to be in conflict. But getting there requires being willing to tolerate her loneliness without rescuing her, to put your own desires, your own relationships, your own nervous system first at the center of your own life. If you're doing this work already, I'd love to hear what's been most difficult. So please comment. And if you're just beginning to see the pattern for the first time, well, you're not alone, and this is exactly where this work begins. I'm wishing you all the best in this journey. Take care.